Macro market trends, stock selection, ETFs, options. Just some of the topics covered in Cook's Kitchen. Well, volatility and negative sentiment seem to be dominating the market lately. Let's get the latest lowdown on that from our tactical trader, Kevin Cook. Gonna tell us about your thoughts on stocks reaching new highs this year?
Yeah, I'm still a bull.
Really?
Absolutely. We haven't taken out my critical levels of support here, say around S&P 1390. So
right.
Until that happens, the market's digesting a lot of bad news, bad earnings, and I want to make a point about sentiment here because earnings drive the stock market over the long run. So fundamentals do matter,
Right.
and the technicals matter, obviously, as I talk about it. But there's also sentiment. So what we've got now is everybody's a little bit worried right now.
Right.
And the question I started asking yesterday is now when the big guys, the institutional investors, are getting really worried about the election and the fiscal cliff. And it is now the time for them to play really defensive because the election is too much uncertainty, and obviously the teams that get picked to wage the battle of the deficit reduction and fiscal cliff, that gets interesting in the next 3 weeks here.
Are you going to wait to see what happens with that fiscal cliff before you consider yourself the lone bull, before you get the feeling?
Well, I'm really going to watch what the market's telling me because the market's going to price it in sooner. And I thought that the market was pricing in a smooth resolution of the fiscal cliff in the past month or two here. That remains to be seen. So let's take a look. Let's go to the charts.
All right.
Today I'm looking at my charts with Bollinger Bands, and anybody who does anything with charts is familiar with Bollinger Bands. Just real simply, it's a way of surrounding the price action with bands of deviation, 2% higher and 2% lower than some moving average midpoint. So it tells you when the market is reaching some extremes of volatility. And so here we have the S&P flirting with its lower Bollinger Band, closed below it yesterday, trying to fight to get back above it today. And obviously it's lost the 50-day moving average up there at 1434. When we got back above 1445 a couple weeks ago, last week actually, I was very encouraged, and I thought, okay, we've seen that bottom. Maybe we need to retest 1440, and they took it right through. So that's why sentiment is so negative, and that's why you're seeing volatility climb. 200-day moving average down at 1375. I don't think we go there. So I'm looking at 1390 to 1400 as sort of a critical level that the bulls need to defend. And if there's a lot more fear, then we're going to fall through there.
Okay, and today, by the way, is October the 24th. So speaking of volatility, the logical question then for me to follow up with is, what is the VIX telling you?
Okay, so let's just look at the VIX, and we'll also look at the VIX with Bollinger Bands, because a technical indicator that a lot of folks are using these days is to don't put moving averages on the VIX, but pay attention to its volatility extreme. So sort of the volatility of volatility. So here's the VIX popping above the upper Bollinger Band, and the indicator that a lot of technical people are using is pop above and close above, and if it falls back through and closes below that, the fear trade has been rejected, and the market should go higher.
Okay.
So that's really the setup we have today. If the VIX can close below 18, let's say, below that upper Bollinger Band, that would be a very bullish sign that fear has been rejected.
That's
now,
interesting.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Russell. Because this is the weaker index, and I always like balance out the S&P and the Russell. I own ETFs in both. Big caps versus the small caps. Russell is very weak. Almost touched its 200-day moving average at 805 yesterday, and fighting to stay above that. So our small cap's going to continue to be weak and lead us lower. That's the question. Or is this a turning point? And we're in the same territory with that lower Bollinger Band on the Russell.
Okay. Well, I just have to take this opportunity too, since I know you've been talking about Apple a lot lately, to interject here and see if you have any thoughts on the somewhat disappointing debut of their latest product.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways to talk about Apple. And so let's do it where I'm not speaking as an Apple bull, although I have some positions. But yesterday I watched the live media presentation, and I also watched the stock very closely, and it was bid up back above 630 into the exciting Tim Cook media event, and once that new iPad pricing was unveiled,
Yeah.
they just hit the stock, and for pretty big size, and took it back down into the low 16s. Gapped up this morning and ran into $625 again. So $625 is an area where there's a lot of sellers, and after yesterday's failure, it looks like weaker things are ahead for this stock. So I'm looking at it as what is one of the strongest stocks and possibly one of the strongest companies in terms of value and valuation. The estimates for next year are over $53. Goldman Sachs is at $57.50. Right? I say even if Apple only earns $50 next year, at $600 it's trading at 12 times, and that's much cheaper than Google. Now, so is that a value price for Apple? Probably, but what it looks like the price action is telling us is one more flush here, and they want to, I'm sure the hedge fund bears would like to take it through 600 and hit all the stops and take everybody out, and if you don't blink, you might get a chance to buy it at 585. But so Apple as a core strong stock, since it's weak, it's more negative sentiment here in the market.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate your thoughts on all of that, and you can not only follow Kevin's latest thoughts on stuff that he writes about in his column on Zacks.com. It's called Cook's Kitchen. But you can also get his thoughts more up to the minute, I guess, on different issues regarding the market in Zacks Real-Time Insight. All of that available for you at Zacks.com if you're not already there watching this video. With Kevin Cook, I'm Terry Ruffalo.